There's something very weak coming through.
Well, you know what? I will be honest, the first time I saw it, I thought nothing of it because, whatever.
Right, yeah.
But I definitely think, is there just truly an element of the whole, you throw a baby into a pool and they either figure out how to swim,
Yes,
or they sink.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Todd Hoffman, and this is WSTR Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 54. We're going to discuss unnoticed mistakes in The Last Jedi. Joining me in this discussion today is Miss Heather Allred.
Hey, everybody. I also just
Welcome.
waved a little bit that you can't see,
Did you
but
wave?
I waved.
Yeah, it's like radio. They can't see you,
Right?
in a sense. Yeah. Once again, check us out on social media at WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. All right, on to our main topic.
And now for our feature presentation.
All right, Heather. So there's some mistakes. There could be, some continuing mistakes, little errors here and there. That always happens in big production movies. So found this on ScreenRant.com, and some of the mistakes we completely missed in The Last Jedi. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Right. Okay. So Screen Rant basically did a top 15. So we're gonna start from, I guess, not the worst, but like the least, and kind of work our way through. So some of these are like continuity errors, or some of these are kind of big things that we need to like take apart and see what's going on. All right. So the first one,
Yes.
Rey somehow knows how to swim. So, she's on Jakku.
Sure.
She doesn't really have water too much anywhere.
Right.
Or I don't think they have like pools at the Jakku depot or anything.
No, like summer memberships or anything.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a real cool like character moment when she's like by the Falcon and it's raining and she like touches the rain, and I think it's like super awesome.
Yeah.
But she goes down basically, I don't know what we call it, like the cave, the seaweed hole, and she miraculously knows how to swim. What's your take on that, Heather?
Well, you know what? I will be honest. The first time I saw it, I thought nothing of it because, whatever.
Right, yeah.
But I definitely think, is there just truly an element of the whole, you throw a baby into a pool and they either figure out how to swim,
Yes,
or they
yeah,
sink.
yeah.
Could there just have been an instinctual, physical reaction for her to know how to swim?
Right.
That kind of thing. So maybe that is where that can come from, or do you learn how to swim with the
another
Force?
thing is she's like, she's a survivor. So I think
yes, that's a great
just
way.
like, hey, and she's not, it wasn't like she was swimming across like the English Channel. It was just like, hey, I dove in, took a little swim, and then I'm in the cave. So I really didn't think much of it, but I guess I could see it, because like she's in desert planet.
Right.
So, all right, next up, the First Order could have easily destroyed the resisted ships. So this is kind of one of the big ones with The Last Jedi. It's like, okay, so they pop out of hyperspace, they're right there, and even Hux like makes a comment of this. He's like, we have all this and we can't do anything about it.
Right.
So what's your take on this?
Well, if the First Order destroyed the Resistance ships, it would have been a shorter movie.
Great point.
Just want to put that out there. No, for the sake of storytelling. I mean,
yeah.
I think you have to look at previous conversations that I know that this podcast has done about The Last Jedi, and that it really kind of focused on this new war element And sometimes in war, you don't immediately attack. There's planning and strategy, and sometimes it's a matter of outwitting, especially when emotions get involved. And so I wonder if that is a component to why the decision was to not just, drive up behind them and start shooting. So I don't know if that's a factor, that the element of what they were trying to focus on was different than what could have happened.
Yeah, this is the biggest one, because I think couldn't they do like a micro jump to get closer, right? Or it's just like, because they're big capital ships, they can't technically catch, the lighter resistance ships. And that's basically how they told us in the film. And, you have to, unfortunately, like with anything, you have to somewhat, just believe, so, because there are a lot of things in movies that shouldn't really happen. And, if you really want to get into the science of it, it's like, well, there's no explosions in space. That wouldn't be cool if you didn't see fire in space. And like once an object is in motion in space, it could keep on going. So you don't really need fuel. So there's that too.
Right. But, exactly.
Technicalities, science has never really been a strong point for the Star Wars. So I don't, this one I can take it or leave it. I mean, it's like, okay, yes, the First Order has definitely more firepower than the Resistance ships, but the idea is like you said, it's more or less, they're going to run out of fuel eventually, and we're going to get them. So that was the whole point of that.
Totally. Not an unvalid point, just a...
Right, exactly. All right, the next one. Luke uses his blue lightsaber in the final showdown.
Right.
All right, so, Luke comes out on crates. He's got the Just for Men look. He's cleanly shaven, or he's got a trim beard, trim hair, and he pulls out the blue lightsaber. So there's been a lot of fan angst about this one. So what are your thoughts, Heather, about the blue lightsaber?
I don't know how much thought I have. Partly because, well, let me explain why.
Right.
So I think because part of it was, yes, my initial thought was, wow, he doesn't look the same.
Right.
So when I think I had so much focus on, wait, what's going on?
Right.
Where did he come from? Well, not where did he come from, but like, how did he know where to be? And why do you look different? And why do you not seem to care about what's going on? Like he just had this real chill, shoulder shrug situation happening at one point that I didn't even think at all about the lightsaber.
Okay.
I was like, oh, they're fighting. And when you're in Star Wars, you fight with lightsabers. That's how it works.
You do.
So I will.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. So admittedly, I didn't have any thought. Woo, right over my head.
You had no thoughts. I've thought about it immediately because, again, in Snoke's chamber, Rey and Kylo are fighting over Anakin's lightsaber, and it explodes. Okay,
right.
In a sense, but to Kylo wakes up and Rey's gone, and so is the lightsaber. So he might not know that it was like actually destroyed. He just knows that he got knocked out and she was gone,
Right.
Obviously, and he covers his tracks with Hux. He's like, she escaped and tried to kill me, blah, blah, blah. To me, it's more or less he's using that as like something to entice Kylo, because he's a rage monster, and what better way to do that than use his grandfather's lightsaber, against him?
Totally.
Also, I think there's a little shame with Luke as far as like with the green lightsaber about, killing, trying to go after Kylo for Luke on the Luke's perspective. So although I was disappointed in not seeing the green lightsaber, I kind of get like them using, him using the blue lightsaber.
Sure.
So. All right.
Okay.
Next one, Rey's sleight of feet on top of Achu. So
bless you.
What this? Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's a bad joke.
It's yeah. Or is it Achto? I don't know. I'm kind of on the. I don't know.
Yeah.
Achu, whatever.
Yeah.
So what this one means basically is they're saying that when Rey at the end of, episode 7, she's on the hill looking at, Luke turns around, takes off his hood, and she's kind of a little bit far away, from when she takes out the lightsaber from her satchel, and here you go.
Right.
Well, this is like a continuity error where basically, in Last Jedi, when she does that, she's like super close, I think it's just like how they cut it, and I think that's their point. It's like, you should have paid attention to what happened in episode 7, and like she should have been farther away and then stepped up.
Right.
But that's kind of how I saw it. It's like, she initially displayed it and then she walked closer to give it to him.
Yep.
That's kind of how I looked at it. I didn't think a huge deal of it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're just missing that bit of footage where she actually walks closer.
Yes.
But, and, obviously you go from director A to director B.
Right. Yeah.
Getting more directly, like, we're handing it off, getting ready to get that story going.
Yeah.
So to me, it was a continuity or, script checker visualization miss on the way of filmmaking, but it was easily reconciled in my brain that she walked closer.
Yeah.
So again, like that makes sense.
That's what I was like. Right. I was like, oh, she's walked closer. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. I mean, I think part of it too is like, oh, it would have been cool if he like grabbed it with the Force, but again, he's cut off from the Force now, so he wouldn't do that. Right. They're like, hey, you got to get closer. I can't grab it.
Come to me.
So I really didn't see this as a big thing. Okay. All right. Number 5. Star Destroyers totally ignore the bombers.
No.
So this is going back to the beginning of the movie, obviously with a big space battle. And you got all the bombers and the TIE fighters out there, but like I think what they're saying here is the Star Destroyers like didn't even try to shoot any of the bombers, especially the last one for the Dreadnought. I guess because Poe took out all the cannons, none of the other Star Destroyers wanted to shoot at the bomber, I guess. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'll go back to my war theory for just a moment. Is there something where, orders have to be followed? You don't just get like shoot abilities. Like just because you can shoot doesn't mean you're allowed to. Does someone above you have to authorize that fire, if you will? Is that part of it? Is it something that have they never seen the bombers before? So then they start panicking and don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm just trying to get into like the mindsets of the people involved.
Right.
And I think that the reason I can make that assumption is that when I look at those in the bombers, specifically the last one, where she understands what her role is, that I forget her name because I only remember her sister, Rose.
Paige.
Thank you. That, she made a choice based on what her instructions were, and that was to, destroy things with the bombs. I mean, let's be honest, that's what they do. Bombs destroy things. So
that's right.
But so, already, again, is it a, same thing as our second point with the First Order and the Resistance ships. It's like storytelling. They have to, they have to stretch it a little bit.
Right. Well, but also too, like, they almost like if the Resistance know what they are as far as the bombers, they were definitely too close in formation because it pretty much called a chain reaction to like all of them. Like that went up they went up pretty quick. It's like, that didn't go well,
Sure, right, yeah.
So, but yeah, I get it. I mean, I still think it's a pretty cool space battle, and it kind of goes back to, I think it's more or less going back to the same thing that has been in Star Wars before, is like the snub fighters, the small fighters, the Star Destroyers, and the Death Star, they can't shoot at them because they're too big. These cannons are too big, and by the time the snub fighters are too fast, they're just fast. So
right,
that's kind of how I see it.
Sure.
All right,
yes.
Number 6, hyperspace tracking isn't new tech. So this is part of again, this is the whole subplot as far as, they don't want to go to hyperspace and they just want to continue on a straight linear path because they tracked them out of hyperspace.
Right.
And so this is a Rogue One reference. So Jin was going through all the data banks on Scarif and said, hyperspace tracking, and K2's like, no, 2 down. And so anyways, this is, again, I guess the argument is like, okay, so Darth Vader tracked Princess Leia through hyperspace in a sense, but I don't know. What do you think about this one, Heather?
It was new to me.
Okay, right.
While what you've shared about, Rogue One and Vader and Leia and the whole situation, while it's potentially been there for a while, I think it's the first time I actually recognized it as a thing. But it made sense to me.
Right.
And so I wonder if it was they're now putting clearer parameters around the tracking, giving it structure almost.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm using some knowledge from the books and stuff, and they would say something to the effect like, well, it went in this in this general direction as far as that ship went on this vector or something, so they would kind of know where it's at. And obviously the A New Hope reference, I mean, in proximity, Scarif and Tatooine are not terribly far, and it's very possible, just like Darth Vader's like, we're going to go to the nearest planet or whatever and jump there. But again, everyone reacts in the movie like Finn and Rose, like this is new tech. So I kind of also assume this is new. This is not, it's more or less a calculated guess prior to that. Sure. And this is actual legit, yep, we could track them in hyperspace now. So
yeah. Interesting.
So, all right. Interesting. Yes. So again, not this to me. It's I'm on the fence on this one. Right. So, okay. Number 7, our booming granny, Maz, who is filming Maz's conversation.
Oh my gosh.
So we talked about this, as far as in our character development episode and just our predictions is it is a boring conversation if she's just sitting there, with a holocam and just be like, hey, it's me.
Yep.
So she's, got a jetpack and she's shooting people and people are shooting back at her. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I can assume it's some kind of robot drone or something that's filming her. I don't know. I don't know about this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess this is that whole suspension of disbelief situation for me.
Yeah.
I'm again, we're fighting with lightsabers. We have hologram projections. We have, Yoda coming in his Force spirit to talk to people. Let it go. This is, but I do. I wonder, is there something technological on her being that flies out as a droid to have that communication? Yes. Is there something in her very amazing goggles that allows for that? I mean, you don't know. We don't know enough about her.
Right. exactly.
So I totally think it's a valid question, but
yeah, I'm totally good with like a hover holocam that like pops out. She takes, she has. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
This is Star Wars. I think it's okay.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of like Tony Stark in the Avengers and all of his like electronic devices that he like can fling from his like handheld onto a big screen. It's like, no one's questioning that, right? So why are we like
no, you're absolutely right. So, like, oh, that's Tony Stark. Yeah,
that's fine.
This is totally Stark. So
right. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
Okay, so no, it's fine. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, so the next one, all right, is Luke never wants to be found, but there's a map to his location. What do you think about this one, Heather?
I don't know. Well, I think it's interesting, and I do wonder if, going back, that there was a map, but it had a missing component.
Yeah.
Where, thinking through the fact that the map was actually not whole and it had to be brought together, that, maybe he thought he had, figured out, as long as I keep these parts separated, no one will find me. But did he really want to be left alone? I think that would be the bigger question to combat this question with.
Interesting.
Now, maybe that's a different podcast night, but
right.
But yeah, right. Did he really truly not want to be found?
I mean, could this be? I mean, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but that's kind of like somebody that like is like on the verge of being suicidal or something, and they still reach out or they still leave notes or like. There's still like that last bit of hope, like somebody please help me or whatever.
Right.
It's just, basically in short, there's a map that he didn't make, but, there's still, it's a map to the first Jedi Temple, and, it only is, we're only assume that he wants to go there, but we'll just have to assume that like those parts were kind of missing, and it kind of came together, and they kind of know he went there, but not really. So so we'll see. All right, so moving on, number 9, Finn drags Rose back to the base unnoticed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How did that happen?
Actually, at first, I really did think about that. I was like, wait, he just showed up dragging Rose halfway across, the battle. But at the same time, this is when everyone's concentrated on Luke when Luke comes back. So, yeah, I don't see how that could be any different. Like, I just feel like they were all concentrated on Luke. There was no other issues, and Finn was able to kind of go around the main battle,
Okay. Maybe I didn't remember that specific, like where that timeline specifically fell when they were on that salt planet. Cause I was like, how are they just walking? And no one's like, they're like walking like 2 miles an hour. No one can, But yeah, if they're distracted by Luke, then obviously that's a pretty decent distraction.
All the stormtroopers went away. All the First Order troopers went away, and they're just like, hey, we're all focused on Luke.
Right.
And we don't see anybody else on the battlefield. I just feel like they were everything, again, in battle. There's so much going on. Like, and if their main focus is Luke Skywalker, they're not going to be worried about 2 people that just crashed or whatever.
Sure.
So yeah. Again, this one to me is like not a huge deal,
Gotcha.
But I initially in the movie theater was like, wait, he just showed up, like just dragging Rose, but like it kind of makes sense,
Sure.
So, All right, so this is related to the dream sequence. So Kylo brings down the house except on himself. So there is in the dream sequence, Kylo obviously shows Luke, does a force push, and like that, when the next kind of thing we see is like Luke's hand kind of coming out of the rubble. Right. So did Kylo destroy the hut, or did he just push Luke away and then brought the house on him? Or, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to look at it from a place of if Kylo was becoming strong with the Force and was able to go from, sleeping to attacking in, under 30 seconds, is there some component of shielding that he was able to do? Or was it move Luke out of the way so that I can get to safety before I continue my destruction? Because he's not stupid.
Yeah, exactly. I think, too, it's just like, he just kind of put a force field around him to protect himself and then got out of the way to make that happen. Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's feasible.
Right, exactly. All right, so here's a tough one to swallow. Okay, number 11.
Yes.
Yoda can control the physical world, but doesn't stop billions of people from being murdered. All right, so let's break this down. Okay. So in this one, obviously, we see Yoda on Achu, and he has the ability. First of all, he calls lightning from the sky to obviously burn the tree.
Yep.
He also boinks Luke on the head with his cane. But I think what the article is trying to say, or what they're trying to say here, is that, couldn't he visit Kylo to kind of stop this whole madness, or try to, do some kind of something with Kylo and just not let him just kind of go all over the place, What are your thoughts?
You know what my thoughts are? Yoda can do whatever Yoda wants to do.
Right.
But I also think the story is stronger with Yoda going to Luke. I think Luke needed to be reminded, go with me on my next couple words here, that he's just a man. Like, being bonked on the head, freaking out that the tree is on fire, and, losing all the books, and where does the Jedi actually lie? And where is it? Where is it? It's like, dude, it's bigger than you. It's not just about you. So to me, I think Yoda made the right decision, but, I'm a Yoda supporter.
Right.
That, he went where the greater need was.
Right. And I think what they're implying too is like, couldn't have Yoda, because again, Kylo might know of Yoda, obviously, from just studies and, in that. But I think what they're really trying to get is, couldn't Yoda just popped in when Luke was going to do, to go after Kylo? But at the same time, it was just an instant, and we're seeing that kind of slow down in time. So it's not like, unless they're saying, oh, Luke or Yoda could read Luke's mind and just be like, oh yeah, you should not go to take that walk to Kylo's hut, right now, or whatever. So yeah, that one, I don't know. It's on the fence for me on that one too. I like,
yeah.
I don't think that's too terribly deep. Okay, next one, number 12. Golden dice don't disappear until after Luke leaves. So in this one, obviously, what they're talking about is, because Luke is a force projection, he's projecting himself on Crate, and then the dice, Han Solo's dice, do not disappear until Kylo actually touches them in the Resistance kind of base and Crate. So what are your thoughts on this one?
So, interestingly, I remember finishing the movie and being like, Bruce, do the golden dice mean anything? Because I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out where they came from. That was my first reaction to that whole scene. But then, and then I was like, and then I had to do the step back and be like, okay, so Luke is a projection, but he's interacting, he's handing things off. Well, that's okay because you've justified that with Yoda. So then, so is it truly they didn't disappear until Luke gave himself to the Force at the end? And so then it became a complete package. These are all the thoughts that I had.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the dice come from the Millennium Falcon. That's actually a New Hope. They just kind of dialed them up. These gold dice are a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So, and when Luke enters the Falcon, he takes them from the Falcon. So I think that's where we get it from, where he gets it from. But then what they're saying is like, okay, Luke vanishes and then the dice vanish.
Right.
So
yep. I would argue I don't understand it. I don't know if that was a director choice. Just like let's just tell this beautiful little story, or is that their weird tribute to the Millennium Falcon and Han and Leia and Luke and the original trilogy? I mean, I don't know. I could go weirdly deep and philosophical, but
yeah, exactly.
It does confuse me, though. I will admit to that.
Yes, it could be again because of his force projection was so powerful that technically, I guess you should say it should disappear at the same time. But to me, it's not really the worst travesty to happen.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Of the ones before us, I don't think that's one to lose sleep over.
Right. Okay. So now we're getting to the nitty gritty. Okay, here we go. The First Order completely misses the fleeing escape pods despite having the super magnifying glass. So they're talking, the super magnifying glass they're talking about is what's in Snoke's chamber. Okay.
Right.
But no one's really in there. So.
Yeah.
Well, again, they're cloaked. I'm using air quotes here. They're cloaked because it's really DJ that sells them that information and says, "Oh, yeah, now that we do a super duper scan, we do see these escape pods." Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, I mean, you could almost take it a step further and be like, "Wait, you didn't see Rose and Finn just take off and then come back and
right?"
Like, I don't know. I mean, that one, I kind of get this one, but in the whole grand scheme of things, I mean, again, it is DJ that actually sells them that information and says, "Yeah, they're cloaked. They're leaving the ship." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, and I think what you're not looking for potentially, you're not going to see.
Right. Yep.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 14. Luke's clothes remain, but not fake hand. So this is kind of, it's kind of a fanboy thing, but at the same time, it's legit. So because Luke's hand is not biological,
right?
Shouldn't his hand fell basically when he gives himself up to the Force? So what are your thoughts on this one, Heather?
I feel like it's the same thing as the whole, how did you get a haircut and colored? How did you get your lightsaber back? Or get this lightsaber? Is it part of the Force component and what happens? technically it would make sense for his hand to have stayed. It did not bother me. I wasn't looking for it. Was it underneath his robes? I mean, I don't know. No. Now I'm just making excuses for the storytelling.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that seemed like a big miss. I think it would have been a good visual as well on film to have seen, the robes drop and then this hand drop. A true finality of that character.
Yeah, but, like for all the knocks of like the humor and all that kind of stuff, like I think that would ruin the moment if you almost like
right.
It almost would incite a chuckle if you saw like the robe and the hand try to like tink 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 on the rock or something like that. I was like, oh,
yeah,
but I mean, for me, the only and I think we talked about this before, I feel like, what should have happened here is like they did one cut where he's kind of floating above the rock and then he kind of releases himself and then he kind of disappears in the force instead of he kind of falls down, kind of regathers himself and then gets back on the rock and then disappears. I felt like because they were like, oh, he's fine. He's okay. He's back.
Yeah.
I thought it would be cool if they do the cut where you kind of you're seeing him behind him and he's looking at the sunset and you just kind of see him disappear instead of him kind of flopping and then coming back. And then I don't know.
My brother had the exact same thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
That this flop, left behind saying we were close, just come down as opposed to going into the force.
Right. Yeah. It just would, because as an audience, you're like, oh, okay, cool. First of all, it's once you see him levitating, when they show him, right, we're like, oh, that's amazing.
Right.
And then, then they kind of pan back and then they show him kind of collapse, and it would have been good if it just went, you're like, oh, okay, he's just exhausted. He just needs some more green milk and he's good to go,
Exactly. Yeah.
So that one, I feel like if his hand remained, it's tacky. It's tacky. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
You hear this ting ting, you're like, oh, there's his hand, so.
Yeah.
All right. And finally, number 15. Okay. The magic backpack. So Finn's pack magically jumps from one place to another. So this is a continuity error.
Yep.
All right. So, Finn's deep in the ship and going to escape pod, and this is where we meet Rose, and he puts the backpack down in front of the escape pod. Okay. So then, they're talking, and then she looks, and now the backpack's in the pod. It magically jumps.
Right. So someone wasn't watching between day 1 and day 2 of filming. It's kind of what I feel like that is. Is it... is this a huge error that causes, anything, a lot of harm? No. Basically what should have happened is that Finn should have knelt down, put the backpack in, and then turned around to see Rose. But basically he drops a pack in front of the pod, and then the next shot is oh, the backpack's in the pod, so... Yeah, not the biggest travesty, I don't think. No. To me, this is this is nitpicky. It's they had a watch on their left hand and now it's on their right hand. It's oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I would argue, let's talk about the ships and let's talk about you couldn't have just blasted them out of space. That's got some actual weight behind them.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That was from ScreenRant.com. 50 mistakes you might have missed. Is there anything else that you caught that might have been a mistake or just something that you observed? You're I don't know about that.
I mean, nothing I can think of like mistake-wise. But again, I watched it for enjoyment. I kind of just let myself be in the world per se.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the only thing, and I apologize if this is pseudo off topic, and I feel like you guys have chatted about it, but during the whole like Kylo Rey mind meld, I remember the whole shirtless scene being like,
yes.
I don't know that that's necessary. I mean, I get that it throws Rey off guard, and so that adds a bit of an element to her where maybe she's not as strong and as powerful about everything. But then I immediately equated it to, well, if Leia can be in a gold bikini, I suppose we can have a shirtless man in the movie.
Kylo,
call it a day. But
right, call it a day.
But that was probably the one other thing that I just was like, I don't know how that works with the whole story, but I'm gonna let it go.
Oh, right.
Because it is it's a moment in the movie, and we move on. But
yeah.
I
mean, it's a punchline to a joke, basically. Come on, really, like, because they can't control their little forced Skype chat, like when it happens. Right. But when it happens, he just turns around. And he's like, "Yeah, I was just benching or working out."
Oh, that's great.
Have you seen now? Okay, now this is like again, GIFs are our life now. You know what I'm saying? So there's an amazing GIF right now that how in episode 7 when Finn and Rey are running from the Ratars, and she doesn't know what it is, and then Finn points it out, and she kind of covers her mouth.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
I just saw that today.
So yeah, they melded together. So they're running down the hallway. They show Kylo turn around, and then they show back to Rey covering her mouth. And I'm just like, okay, genius. And this is why we have the internet,
Right.
So.
Oh my gosh, cat videos and Star Wars GIFs. That's why we have the internet.
Exactly.
People.
Yeah. I for me, I mean, the couple couple other things, like even my dad kind of pointed this out, like with the bombers, like there's no gravity in space, but the bombers go down. Sure. Which is, to me, it's like, well, yeah, they probably have something in them to cause them to, go down, which again is not a big deal. And then the other thing is like, even with my thing is like, I kind of argued this, but then rewatching it, they like with Princess Leia basically getting blown out of the ship, and I was like, well, doesn't the shield, aren't the shields up? But basically, what they were doing was they were focusing the shields on the back half of the ship, and so I guess where the bridge is, it wasn't shielded. I guess that was like, I was like, wait. Isn't shields kind of covering the whole thing, or that was my little thing. I was like, but again, like in a movie, there are some creative decisions, good or bad, like as far as and but like you said, like some of these are kind of nitpicky, but like I rather talk about ships and the fuel thing and that kind of thing instead of just the magic backpack or whatever.
The magic backpack. Oh my God.
Well, the other thing too is like we find this all the time too, is like they flip in film, well, not so much obviously in the digital age, but like they'll flip the image and like Luke's collar was on one side and now it's on the other, or like those things kind of, they do jump from time to time because of how they film that. But like, in such a big production movie, I'm surprised there's like not even, like there's 20,000 different things that we couldn't pick out.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think the tricky part that we find ourselves in is when you create literally a new universe, a new culture, new species, new language. And then you have people who've grown up on them for, 30 plus years. It becomes ingrained, and this is what it is. Why are you trying to change it? And, I think we can have similar conversations about like Lord of the Rings when, those films came out, and like The Hobbit. Yeah. And you're like, why are you screwing up something that I've already been a part of for forever? And so,
right. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
So I think, I just go back to some of it is filmmaker A, filmmaker B. Yep. Just continuity of, someone, cut that scene out. So now we've missed, a 2-minute conversation or something, or, but some of these things you can make logical assumptions based on your knowledge of the bigger world you've been living in.
Correct.
For a number of years. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's, I think, how I approach it, but yeah.
Yep. Totally. All right. So there you have it. All right. Moving on to news of the week.
And now, the Star Wars news of the week.
All right. So this came from the Business Owner, and the headline read, Trevorrow makes Ridley cry. All right. So Trevorrow was, obviously, Colin Trevorrow was going to be the director of Episode 9, and he got the boot. So, so that's not happening. But basically, a Saturday Night Live alum, Bobby, I'm going to butcher his last name.
Moynihan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I'm my English is not my first language. But he was on a recent podcast and basically was describing this scene kind of unfold. So I just want to read it. So this is Bobby talking. He's basically saying, I was in the Book of Henry, which was a movie that Colin Trevorrow directed. And obviously they talked about Star Wars in a great deal. We're both big fans. One of the reasons why I think he put me in the movie was because we were hitting off and talking about that. Bobby stated, and he said, I introduced him to Daisy Ridley at an SNL after party, and this first time they met. I saw a moment where she said, what happens to me? And he said, do you really want to know this now? And she said, yeah. And they went off into a corner of the bar, and he whispered into her ear, and she started crying. I was like, I'm witnessing Star Wars history right now, Bobby stated. I remember being so amazed and feeling so wonderful and so happy for Colin because he's such a fan. I haven't spoken to him since the news came out that he was not doing it, but it kills me because I would have loved to see what he would have done with it because he was very passionate about it, end quote. So what do you think? What would make Daisy Ridley cry?
Well, I don't know. Were they happy tears? Were they not happy tears?
Yeah.
That's it's terrifying. I mean, obviously, I don't know.
Yeah. I would say there were happy tears.
Okay.
So.
Maybe she finds out who her parents are.
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know, but like the question is like, what happens to me? I mean, that doesn't really say anything about like parent lineage or anything like that,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll never know. I don't know. It's hard to say, like, if they're going to use any of his already existing script, or they're just going to throw it out the window and,
right.
And JJ's doing its own thing. But you never know what he had in store for Rey. So, but just a cool kind of geeky moment, so.
I think it's fun too, just on a quick side note, when celebrities like geek out about the same things I geek out about. Like it's not just, us people.
Right. No. Yeah. I think they also understand. Yeah. Like when they kind of step outside of it and be like, yeah, this is pretty cool that I'm in this project and I get to do this, for a living. So that is awesome.
For sure.
Okay, number 2. This came from Forbes.com.
Okay.
Deadpool 2 move maybe more trouble for Solo. So here we go.
Uh-oh.
So obviously Disney bought Fox, but Fox is still in control for a little bit longer. So they moved Deadpool 2. Geez, say that like 5 times
Right?
fast. From June 1st, 2018 to May 18th, 2018.
Okay.
So basically what's happening in May is that, so we have Avengers Infinity War that comes out May 14th, okay? And then now Deadpool is moving into May, so that comes out May 18th. And then Solo, a Star Wars story, comes out May 25th.
Oh.
So basically they're saying maybe Fox smells blood in the water over the much discussed Ron Howard directed Han Solo prequel. And, could Disney say, okay, now let's just move it out of May and go back to our little bread and butter December, It's very interesting. I mean, this is, a lot of times, depending on, studios look at the movie releases and they might say, you know what, we can't compete with this and we're going to move out, or, again, like in December, it's like, well, are we going to go against Last Jedi or,
right, exactly.
And so, I mean, it's very strategic, there's a lot of strategy involved in as far as, like what to pick. And in Han Solo case, May 25th is back to the quote unquote original time, which was in May for, all the George Lucas released Star Wars films. So what are your thoughts? Is this something, can this weather the storm, or does Disney say, yeah, we're going to pull it back? What do you think?
Well, personally, if Solo does not move, it will not affect my watching of it because I could really care less about Deadpool. Personal opinion right here. I don't speak on behalf of anybody else. But yeah, so I don't know. I think I'm a little bit more surprised how close it is to Avengers Infinity War, to be completely honest, than I am Deadpool.
Yes.
Because I just feel like Infinity War, as I, hear the rumblings around, Hollywood, is that this truly could be the last superhero movie for Robert Downey Jr. I believe Chris Evans is Captain America. He's, slowly coming out of that. So this, it could be their send-off movie. And so to do anything to jeopardize that, I'm like, wow, that's really close.
Well, and it's 2 Disney films.
Yeah.
It's 2, even though it's Marvel and Lucasfilm, it's still Disney.
Exactly.
So it's like, why are you competing with yourself? Yeah, I don't know. It just seems weird.
It does.
It just seems really weird.
But Disney clearly makes enough money each year that they must be doing something right. So whether they keep it in May or
is it
December,
just like, you know what? We don't care. Just get it out. We just want to get this thing out. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just.
Well, and that could be too. Like, let's get Solo out. Let's move on to the next episode. I don't know, because there's.
Or are they thinking? Here's another thing.
Uh-oh.
Like, it's a lot of movie studios do this too. Is like, they want both Avengers and Solo to be on hard copy, like Blu-ray, digital by Christmas.
That would be another really valid point. I didn't even think about that.
And maybe that's what they're saying, like, hey, we, maybe we're going to suffer a little bit in the box office. So we're not going to bring home that much, which obviously that's what we, moviegoers look at that, and all the studios look at that. But maybe it's just like, you know what? We want both these movies in December, so everyone's buying them for Christmas or whatever.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I don't know. So there you have it. That's the news of the week. All right, moving on to Cantina Chat. Heather.
Yes.
Any Star Wars happenings with you?
Sadly, no. Yeah, it's been a quiet week for me since last I chatted with you fine gentlemen. Yeah, I definitely being a grown up and an adult with the work world situation. Adulting at its finest. In sci-fi world, I did have a little Firefly marathon while I cleaned my house on Saturday. So,
that's fantastic. See, there you go.
I did go into space, just not the same space.
Right, exactly. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you geeked out. That's okay.
There was some
just not
geeking out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It just wasn't. It wasn't Star Wars. That's fine. It's all good.
And awaiting the Solo trailer, which apparently never showed up.
Right. It didn't show up. Yeah, we promised that little nugget last week. Hey, we're gonna do Solo review. Well, we can't do a Solo review if there's no Solo 2 review. So the mystery still continues, and that's why I'm like, it's January, guys. We got it's 5 months away.
Exactly.
So, but anyways, well, that's cool. Hey, you got a little geek in. That's all good.
Totally,
so,
yeah. What about you?
I shared last week that I spent some Christmas money on this thing for my 501st Stormtrooper costume, and it's basically a static burst for my intercom system, so it's more legit A New Hope thing. New Hope Stormtrooper, and I got it in the mail, and yes, it's amazing. So
now, have you trooped with it yet?
I haven't. Okay. No, I just got it in the mail last week, so I, plugged it in, tried it out, and of course, like my wife Jen, she recorded me doing this. I'm like, "What are you doing?" Making a test run. Like, are you recording this? She's like, absolutely. I'm like, okay, well, there you go. But yeah, it's super cool. It's just like another thing to kind of, you know how this goes, Heather. You gotta enhance the cosplay. It's got to be,
totally.
Gotta make it legit. So yeah, so that was my little happening of the week. So. Awesome. Always something going on in the Hoffman household for Star Wars. So
excellent. I love it.
There you have it. Yeah, exactly. All right. Why don't we just put a nice little bow on this episode, Heather?
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR Podcast. Once again, check us out on social media, WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. Jeez.
You got
it. Yeah, exactly. We want to hear from you. So comment, tweet, rate us on iTunes, email us at wstrpodcast@gmail.com. You can also leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. Operators are standing by. No, not really. It's just a voicemail, and then we can listen to that and we can play it on an upcoming podcast. Again, you could check all our catalog of episodes, everything you want to know. It's at wstrmedia.libsyn.com. And you can check out all our stuff there. So yeah, that's all the ways you can get a hold of us. So next week, maybe we should just put this as like every next week. We'll be like, okay,
my fingers are crossed, folks.
Yeah. Every next week, so next week, and if it doesn't happen next week, it's gonna be the week after. We're gonna get that Han Solo movie trailer. I don't know. It could happen. That's our plug. That's our plug for every week. Han Solo movie trailer.
I love it.
Well, it's like too. Usually we have like a teaser, and then we have like the full trailer, and we're almost at a point where we're at the full trailer spot and we haven't even got like a little teaser. So that's where I'm like, all right, what is going on? What's happening? Come on, so. But hey, We're saying next week. Let's just say next week.
Positivity. I love it.
Let's do it. That's right. Okay. All right. You want to help me with the send off here, Heather?
Absolutely.
Okay. Here we go. Now, this is podcasting. All right. We did it. Woo! Han Solo next week. Maybe not. I don't know.
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say. Exactly.